It's a crisis in a person's life to be given a diagnosis of cancer. Women are inculcated from a very young age that they are the nurturers. They're the ones that have to press on and be there for everybody else. And so when they're hit with this diagnosis, they don't really know where to go next.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 47.
I was 60 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Initial reaction, I guess, was one of complete shock. It kind of encompasses just everything.
When I was first diagnosed, some of my emotions were shock, denial, disbelief. I couldn't believe it was happening to me.
I wasn't very original. I jumped off of my chair and walked around in a circle, repeating shit, 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 and then sat down and said, well, what do we do now?
I think Grace has been so supportive to thousands of women over the years, and I was one of them. I knew her as a friend before my diagnosis, and she remained a true friend, and yet the wisdom that is innate in her way of healing just glowed, and I was able to, almost by osmosis, pick up her healing technique. Of course, there was much more than that by me making an effort to go and do her training, do her workshops, do the reading that she suggested, and come out of my own silent way of dealing and talk about it.
I've been working in cancer support for more than 30 years. And I began in that work through working with my boyfriend, who later became my husband. He was diagnosed with osteogenic sarcoma, a rare form of bone cancer, and had no hope of a remission. So we got together and we did a number of things, and one of those things was particularly reinstilling hope and looking at belief systems, accepting the diagnosis but perhaps not the prognosis. And over about 2.5 years he became well. Then we realised that there was nothing around in Australia at that time that was really looking after the psychological, emotional, social support for people with cancer. So we set up the first cancer support groups in Australia, and then we set up the first educative residential programs where people with cancer and their partners could actually come and live in. And then it graduated even further than that. It became quite gender specific, and I realised that there were a lot of people coming through with breast cancer who actually had very little support. Some of these women were on their own, some had broken up from a relationship because of the breast cancer and the stress of it, and it really seemed to have a very special set of needs. So I then really looked at what I could do in working with particularly the emotional health of women with breast cancer. And I started a number of programs, and I found that it was really what women needed.
Dealing with the first hurdle that a woman that's diagnosed with cancer would need to be after it's being like hit with a tsunami of waves, because life as they know it has changed forever. So they need to deal with the shock and the trauma.
The will to live was very strong in me from the beginning. I'd just come through another very serious health problem, and this kind of was like icing on the cake, if you know what I mean, in a reverse kind of way. So it was, it really reinforced a strong determination to just get on with the job, and I saw it as my job, that sort of initial 6 months of recovery from the surgery and then the chemo, and then on top of that the radiation. That was sort of like, it was my job to be well.
I have listened to my dreams for many years. One night I had a dream that I had actually died and someone was talking about me dying, and I overheard them and I screamed out, no! And it was a true primal scream. That's when I knew that I did not want to die, that I wanted to live. And I think that was around 6 weeks, as I said, after my diagnosis. It took 6 weeks for that unconscious voice and that will to live to actually scream out through me and make itself heard in my conscious mind. And that's when I decided to start doing some emotional healing work on my own breast cancer issues, not just looking after other people's emotional issues.
The will to heal was a very natural part for me. All along, to me, I really didn't see death as an option. I had way too much going on. I was far too busy for cancer. And so, and a new little baby had just been born. I had a beautiful 5-year-old granddaughter already. I had 2 gorgeous children and a husband, and they all needed me. And I needed me. And there was no way I was going to miss out on dancing at anybody's weddings, particularly my great-grandchildren's weddings. So that's my aim. That has been my aim as far as the Will to Heal.
Initially, I thought that I could do healing without going through the traditional methods such as surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. And then I realised that I needed both. I need to access the wisdom of medicine and my own inner wisdom.
Having my 2 granddaughters sitting on my bed while the chemotherapy was happening and having jokes with them and everything, making light of some things without trivialising, I think is really important.
Women of silence, gentle and strong, tell me your path where it first went wrong. Tell me your story, how you've coped with your life. Tell me about all the trouble and the strife.
I see how you've coped with holding the pain. I feel your soul weeping, and yet you refrain from sharing your losses, your grief and your fears, but you know they multiply over the years.
Until one day your inner wisdom says, no more, and you awake with an illness, a fiery core that's fueled by a lifestyle out of control, too much held too often has taken its toll.
It's time to rethink, reassess how it's been, and develop a strategy previously unseen. There is a way to heal with heart and great passion. Let go of withholding that was always your fashion. Nurture yourself and make yourself whole. Live your life fully and realise your goals. Women of silence, gentle and strong, find the courage to heal and to sing your heart's song.
I've learned to live with cancer by assuming that I am living with cancer and not dying of cancer.
Certainly after a cancer diagnosis, nothing is ever the same. Nothing.
I'm actually living with a sense of meaning and purpose. Not that I haven't done that all my life, but with an added sense of the most precious moments in life are those that we're right in here and now.
I guess what I would say to anybody, more than anything, is just be there for the person. Just be there silently, lovingly, always be there ready to give the person a cuddle, or just sit there holding their hand, or just walk with them, because it can be very lonely, and you really just need a lot of love, and at the same time you also need to love back. A diagnosis of cancer isn't the end. There is so much that can be done these days. It is enormously progressive. What suits one person certainly won't suit another.
When my breast cancer surgeon first told me about me having cancer, I said, well, we have to die of something. And he said, yes, but let's not make it breast cancer.